Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Whiskey Musings broadcast. I apologize. I'm a couple minutes behind. No good excuse other than just been tied up doing a couple of other things, and I now notice that my Periscope TV fans are not going to be able to see the live stream because it is, let's see if maybe I can get this to go here. Just give me a second. And maybe it'll go this way. And I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, goodness. Heck of a big week. Yeah, it's not going to go. So I guess, I had a heck of a big week. I've got a couple things that happened. Obviously, the first thing is I picked up a couple of new subscribers. So that's awesome. If you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, that will be the primary place, obviously, for things like trying to get stuff going. Now, you'll notice that because I'm late, my episode title and everything is all messed up, but as soon as the stream is over, I will go ahead and fix that and get that taken care of. So anyway, hopefully everybody had a wonderful week. Temperature is changing. Things are turning more toward fall. So we're having to, start looking at things like, for my case, like, firewood and that kind of stuff, get prepared for fall coming. And that actually brought me to think of something that I had mentioned at another time. I'd mentioned that we would do an episode on this. So if you recall, episode 16 was about kitchen failures. If you missed that episode, I encourage you to go back on the YouTube channel and go and take a look at that. And that's episode 16, kitchen failures. Tonight, I want to discuss your kitchen successes. And I'm not talking about, going and buying something off the shelf, opening up the box and being able to like pour it into boiling water and then make something that way. I'm talking about either following a recipe or something along those lines from scratch kind of setup. And I really want to focus on things that you have done in a from scratch kind of fashion kind of fashion. And the reason why I want to focus on that is because, realistically, it doesn't take much of a person who's doing cooking to, open up a box and pour it into a thing of boiling water or whatever. Maybe it is for some people. I don't know. But the point is that I want to try and focus on your successes in the kitchen when you are attempting to make something from scratch. So let's kind of focus on that and let's discuss that. So give me just a second. Like I said, I apologize. I'm running a bit behind. I got to get things kind of set up here. And actually mute the phone here so I don't blast this out to everybody. Let's get this going and we will make this phone call. And as soon as that pops up here, okay, so I think I've got it. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up the phone number. Yep. Looks like everything went okay there, so that's cool. All right, so if you have a a recipe or something, and again, keep in mind, this is to make it so that, this is something that maybe you've never tried before, that kind of stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about some of our kitchen successes. And I'm not really interested per se to like pass around recipes. But if you have something specific where you did something different from a particular recipe, or you created something that you've never tried before, that you've given it a shot, and let's talk about that. So for me, one of the things that I've done in episode 16, I talked about how I can't do clam chowder, but what I have been able to do quite successfully and quite well on a couple of different occasions is beef stew. And then also I've been able to do like a chili recipe. Now, the one time that I did a chili recipe, yeah, I put a little too much garlic in, things were okay. But in terms of the challenge of doing chili, I actually got sort of tossed to the wolves. Uh, so my son had his Cub Scouts. We went to a place down in Oregon, to a camp down there, and one of the activities that they had to deal with putting up a chili recipe, and putting it into for a contest, kind of. Now, traditionally, when you do things like that, people want to, they want you to like really, really spice it up and get it just incredibly spicy and hot. And typically that's fine. I mean, you can go ahead and do that if you're that kind of a person, that's great. But that was a traditional thing that they have done, in the past, was to try and find out for the judges, who were also Scoutmasters as well, to try and figure out from the judges, how spicy can you go? How hot can you make it? And can you make the judges kind of fall out? Well, I took a different tact, and the tact that I took was partially forced or hoisted upon me because of what I had to work with. But what I ended up doing is I ended up making kind of a sweet chili. And in this particular case, it was a sweet, because I didn't have a lot of spice to it, but I had a little bit of spice and just enough, and it took the edge off the sweetness. It kind of gave more of like a spicy sweet type flavor. It was reminiscent to me of like a baked beans kind of sauce, but it was actually pretty cool. And I just sort of tossed it all together. And of course, we cooked it in we had to do it in Dutch ovens. So that was one of the rules of the contest, was you had to grab whatever kind of stuff you had, and you had to put it in to a Dutch oven and do Dutch oven cooking. So obviously I'm cooking over coals, I'm cooking over charcoal, and I'm using whatever we had in camp as far as spices were concerned. So it was interesting in the fact that it was a success in the fact that I was able to come up with something at least edible, given the fact that I was not prepared for this contest. It was just one of those things where the Scoutmaster came over and was like, hey, we need an entry. And so I went ahead and I did that, and it was a success from the standpoint of that I didn't really kill anybody with this, and it turned out quite well. I was sort of surprised. I was afraid that it was going to be a little too sweet, but it ended up coming out a little better than what I anticipated. And unfortunately, I mean, I used like a 12-inch, pretty big Dutch oven to do this. And I thought, these people would just get like a small tasting or whatever. But it actually turned out that most of the judges ended up with almost full bowls. And so I guess in a way, them clearing out the bowl was my validation of the fact that it wasn't, it was turned out to be more of a sweet chili again, rather than a savory kind of spicy chili that you would typically find. But being able to do that on the fly with whatever I had available. It was a huge cooking success for me, just because of the fact that I was put under pressure, and I'd never entered a cooking contest before at that point, and I still haven't. I mean, that's the only one that I've entered. But the ability to have that thrown together and have it come out as good as it did, I'm going to count that as a 100% success on my side. Now, another thing that I've tried in the past has been, and I enjoy Dutch oven cooking. I enjoy it. I like the low and slow. I like slow cookers. I like stews, chilies, soups. I really wish I could get my clam chowder up to level, but maybe someday. But anyway, one thing that I also do like to do is I like to barbecue and grill and smoke. I've tried to smoke. I've tried to smoke salmon, and the one time that I did that, it came out quite well. And that was pretty cool. That it actually came out. I used a recipe for the coating from a friend of mine at work, and he essentially gave me, like, this is what you need to do, and so on and so forth. And he gave it to me. And it was a brown sugar kind of a coating for it. It turned out quite well, I thought. I wouldn't want to do it again just because I'm not really all that big on smoked salmon, but I gave it a shot. I gave it a try, and it came out pretty good. It did. So another thing that I've done in the past is boneless pork ribs. And it's not the ones that you would normally get, like the half rack or whatever, although I've done those as well. But my wife likes to go to Costco and get the big pack of boneless pork ribs. And these suckers are huge. I mean, these are like really, really big pieces of meat. And one of the things that I've been able to do with them is I've put them on the grill or on the barbecue, and I've cooked them. Now, one thing you need to understand, obviously, and this was something that I actually learned from a cookbook, a barbecue book. I think they had a show on the Food Network, the Neelys, and they're from Memphis area, and one of the things that they basically said was, no matter what, it's, barbecue and that kind of stuff, it's always got to be low and slow. Low and slow is the way to do it. And so, if you have the temperature up too high, you're going to end up, charring the outside too quickly. If you have the temperature too low, obviously you're not going to be able to cook the meat well enough within time frame. So it's got to be in a perfect position. For obvious reasons, you got to raise that inner temperature for the health department and make sure you kill off all the bacteria inside. But you also need to make sure that it's low enough that the outside doesn't burn. And of course, with fatty meats like pork and that kind of stuff, the fat dribbles off and drops into the coals, and you get flare-ups and all kinds of stuff. So, most of the time, if somebody's going to do some smoking, you usually would try like an indirect heat for smoking, but you can also use an indirect heat for just standard barbecuing as well. And I personally, I use more of a direct heat. I actually like, in terms of coals, while I can use the briquettes like what you get from, say, Kingsford, as an example, although Kingsford permeates their briquettes with lighter fluid, and so some people don't like that flavor, especially if you put the meat on too early. But I personally like the actual lump hardwood charcoal, the stuff that comes in chunks of, wood. And I personally like that. Now, the only challenge with that is that you can't really use it for smoking, because smoking, it has to be really low and careful. in terms of what you're looking at. Um, in the with the hardwood natural kind of charcoal, it tends to burn hotter. And so like to use that when I'm doing more of like a grilling kind of scenario, or, if I'm going to do some charcoal grilling or something like that, I tend to like that better. Charcoal briquettes, in my opinion, they tend to help in terms of the Dutch oven cooking. They hold their temperature quite well, and so that helps from the Dutch oven side to keep a normal temperature. Or, and you can vary the temperature. There's some websites I think had where each briquette is X amount of degrees, and so you can kind of take those briquettes and figure out how much it is, and so it really helps when you've got a Dutch oven cooking to be able to do that. But the lump charcoal that I'm talking about, it's more expensive. I'll admit, at least it is around me. But it's definitely helpful when you're dealing with trying to grill without having like the Kingsford sort of flavor, the charcoal flavor. It does give a little bit of a different flavor to it, but in terms of that type of setup, you just have to be aware that tends to burn hotter, and it will flare up a lot more easy. Now, I have a water bottle around, and I try to, don't spray the meat, but spray around to get the flare ups and things like that out of the way. Right or wrong, that's what I do. I try to avoid, crispifying the meat as much as possible. But again, when you're dealing with doing it over an open fire, low and slow, that's the better way to do it. At least what I've found. I don't care for, charring it very quickly, kind of thing. Um, Now, I also have used gas and gas grilling only for grilling. I have an outdoor grill and I do gas grilling that way. And that's kind of fun to be able to do because of the fact that you can, generally speaking, you can monitor the temperature a little more. You get a little more even temperature. You don't have to worry so much about how many coals are going where and that kind of stuff. But as far as the flavor, it tastes pretty much just like you would get out of your stove or your oven because you're not putting it over the gas. You're not actually putting it on the gas itself and cooking that way. So but I typically do that for things like steaks and that kind of stuff. So as far as like the barbecue part of it is concerned, and I've tried a bunch of different things. I mean, I've tried injecting the meat with liquids, and I've tried putting stuff. But one of the things that I really do like is the some mesquite. I think it's a Grill Mates mesquite dry rub. I really like that. And then for pork, we found this thing. It's called what is it called? Shoot, it's like pork butt rub, and it's a really good. It's got a lot of good spices and flavor to it, and it's really good when you rub that on and you get that in there, and you let the meat marinate in it for at least 4 hours. Better yet, the longer it is, the better off it is. And we just realistically slather that stuff on the meat, and then we'll go and we'll throw it on the grill and cook it up. And again, low and slow is the way to go as far as I'm concerned. You try and do it too fast, and it's not gonna help. But those are some of the things that I've done, and I've cooked. I've done turkeys in the past. My brother-in-law is a avid turkey hunter, and so he's brought us some wild turkey, and I've successfully cooked that. I would say. I mean, nobody got sick. Turkeys and Thanksgiving. And I do enjoy cooking when I get the chance to cook. It doesn't happen very often. It just with our particular lifestyle, things are very busy. But I do enjoy cooking. I enjoy, especially making things from scratch. And one of the things that I found as far as cooking is concerned, that you have to be willing to step out of your bubble now and again. I mean, following recipes is fine, but you kind of need to be able to step out of the bubble, step out of your comfort zone, and expand your horizons a little bit. And one of the things that I think really, really helps is understanding that there are certain things in cooking, at least that I've found, that are really crucial and important. Like, first of all, don't forget the salt and pepper. Okay. You don't have to overboard it. You really don't have to put a whole ton of it in there to help enhance the natural flavor of the food. And to me, natural flavor is really, really helpful. From a taste perspective, certain meats especially are going to be leaning on the salty side, so you want to hold off on the salt, but don't forget to put a little pepper in there. Put a little pepper on the meat. If it gets a little, if you don't put just standard salt and pepper on, you can, even just trying it as just a basic bottom, like the foundation of a good seasoning, includes a little salt and a little pepper in most cases. And you don't want to like overflow it with other flavors as well, because you also have to remember some spices are really, really strong. Some spices are not so strong either. And if you're using fresh spices versus bottled spices, there's a whole ton of information on the web, but you've got to be able to step out and try something different. Don't be afraid to, once you get the basics down as far as like, doing the meat and everything else, being able to cook the meat properly and that kind of thing when it comes to doing something, don't be afraid to step out and throw a little extra flair into something. Do a little more. Do some spices. Do some, do something different. Maybe follow a recipe, but change it up a bit. Add something. Take something out. Try something a little more robust. Maybe if you're not used to spicy food or whatever, try a little Cajun seasoning. Try a little cumin. Try some paprika or something in it, just to give it just a tiny, tiny little extra kick. Give that a shot. Give that a try. But you're not really going to expand your horizons. You're not really going to grow and do something different if you aren't willing to take a shot, if you're not really, really willing to try something new. So those are some of the successes that I've had. I mean, pork ribs, chili. I've had, again, I enjoy winter, so I'm looking forward to this because I like to, I want to pull out the Dutch ovens and make sure those are all cleaned up. In fact, I gotta write a little note here to remind myself that that's something that I want to do. But definitely, give something new a try. My wife enjoys making soups, and most of her soups are of like an Italian nature. She makes this Italian wedding soup. And she has, in her family, it's an Easter special that they have. And it's actually, like I said, it's an Italian wedding soup, but it's a dough ball soup with ground beef, little meatballs in it, and some spinach, and it's got like a chicken broth to it. And usually you would be cooking it pretty much all day. I mean, oh my gosh, if we could get some of the recipes from her mother's side of the family, I think I'd probably be a lot chunkier than I am, because they made their own pasta. They made their own sauce. I mean, you walked into their house and it was, well, I mean, they're Italian. Hello, that's what they do. And so, it was always just smelling great and wonderful, and it didn't really matter. You just walked in and it was awesome. But as far as that's concerned, I mean, that Italian wedding soup that's like a hit every year. She's done a little bit here and there. She's tried to perfect it over the years, and we've actually even tried it on a couple of other occasions. She's used the family, and this is another thing. If you have a family, if you have your integral family, and you want to do something, try it on your family. Get them to respond, because believe me, if your kids don't like it, they will not eat it. They're going to look at you and they're going to be like, oh, come on. This is disgusting. Or they might flip it around and go, oh my gosh, this is so great. This is so wonderful. But anyway, you got to be able to step out. All right. So it looks like I've got a caller on the screen here. And so let me bring them in. All right. Hello there. How are you?
Just doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, I am doing absolutely wonderful. The last time we talked, you and I, we were talking about kitchen failures, and now we're talking about kitchen successes. So I'm kind of hoping that you're going to pop something on me here that I am just, totally surprised about, and everything else.
Only thing that's spectacular.
Oh, come on. Come on.
I like to cook. I love to cook. If I hadn't been scared off it, I'd be a chef today.
Right.
But
right.
I like to, I never leave a recipe alone. I always got to tweak it somehow.
Well, if I remember from our episode 16 phone call, you had one spot that you kind of tried to tweak something and it didn't come out very well. So, all right.
Well, that's a part of trial and error. I mean.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, my meatloaf.
Meatloaf.
Okay, I always make like a really huge meatloaf.
Like how huge are we talking?
I like to have maybe between 3 and 5 pounds of meat.
Ooh, okay. Okay. So this is a
it's always
big loaf.
Big loaf.
Big loaf. Okay.
It's always 50-50 of ground pork and hamburger. Always
Okay.
with a lean hamburger.
Right.
But it really never comes out the same way twice, because I'm always messing with it. I never write it down. It's just whatever I think about that sounds good to be thrown in there, I throw it in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't know. I don't know if you're on the Facebook side or if you're on the YouTube side, but one of my Facebook people has talked about meatloaf as well, that he's made meatloaf too. And he just mentioned he had wished he wrote everything down that he had put in it, because he would obviously need, that's one thing about some of the things when you're dealing with trying to go off the cuff is trying to remember exactly what you did. But anyway, so go ahead.
Well, basically just like a Lipton onion soup mix.
Okay.
I once tried, what was it? French onion soup, right from the can. That wasn't great. A little too oniony. But yeah, I just throw in a bunch of garlic, maybe some chopped onions, and everyone seems to like it. My wife does not like to have, I'll make my own barbecue sauce. So I'll put it on half. So she has her half without barbecue sauce, and Derek and I like it with barbecue sauce.
Right. Okay. So do you, so I got to ask, I mean, if you're not using barbecue sauce, do you do like ketchup on the other half?
No, she likes it plain.
Oh, okay.
She just likes just gravy.
Oh, okay. Gravy. Yeah, that makes sense.
Big old pot of mashed potatoes. And yeah, everyone's happy.
Right. Okay. Well, one thing that I've had in the past, and I don't know how experimental you are when it comes to certain meats, because I understand you're throwing the pork in there, and the reason why you're putting the pork in there, for those that I guess don't understand, is that for something like a meatloaf, you really need to have a certain percentage of fat in there in order to bind everything sort of together. if it's not fatty enough, it tends to, cook off the fat real quick, and then it just starts breaking apart. And so it's things like that, and hamburgers
Well,
like
that's also why you throw in eggs or milk.
Yeah.
That'll help bind it together also.
Well, yeah.
Breadcrumbs.
Yep, with the breadcrumbs, right? Because when you put in breadcrumbs into a meatloaf, it tends to dry things out. But it also helps to try. You mentioned you use lean ground beef, so something that you might be able to substitute if you're really willing and interested is I personally, as far as meat is concerned, I like buffalo.
Okay.
I like buffalo meat.
I've got a buffalo chili.
Oh, okay. Okay. Buffalo chili. All right. Another thing that I've had in the past too, and my brother-in-law's, whenever we would go hunting in the past, one of the things that we did that would have, we eat really good when we go hunting. Okay. You just have to. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. You kind of have to. But one of the other things that they did is we would have elk, and you would mix a little bit of elk, like a half and half elk and beef for tacos and stuff. So, mixing up meats is pretty good too. Now you can't do that with deer. Do not do that with deer. Venison has a specific flavor that you need to be aware of, and you can't really mix it very well. But stuff like elk and bison, or not bison, buffalo, whatever it is, I can't remember which one is extinct and which one's still around. But if you can mix those because their natural flavors don't conflict with one another. But I've heard that venison, and I've had some venison stuff in the past, and to me it has a very distinct flavor to it. So it's kind of more difficult to mask when you're mixing things up. But you might want to try something like that and to give it a different texture, different taste or something. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've had deer was a while ago when we first moved to Spokane. We were still getting settled, and pastor at our church invited us over because he knew we were struggling just a little bit. And we walk in the garage, and there's this deer hanging from the ceiling, stripped.
Yep.
Okay, like, oh, okay. You're that kind of guy.
Yeah,
cool.
he's
and
dressing.
He had a freezer full of venison and other things, and he gave us quite a bit. And I'll just cook it up, just a little coat it in flour and seasonings, and fry it up in a pan.
Yeah,
Ashton loved it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean it's some people can't do that. I mean, some people can't. I mean, I've had like, alligator, I've had snake or rattlesnake, I've had, bison, or bison or buffalo, whatever what it is. I've had frog legs and, stuff like that. I think I discussed a little bit about it on I think it's episode 6, where it was bad food or horrible eats, I think was the title. But anyway, I personally like to go out, and when somebody has, buffalo on the menu, as far as like a burger is concerned, I'll usually end up picking it because I just like the meat. I love the meat. And elk steaks are really, really good to me as well. Ground elk is good. You got to kind of mix it with the, with a little bit of beef, sometimes a little bit more fat, because again, wild game generally tends to not have as much fat in it as its more, I don't want to say domesticated, but it's more common counterparts in terms of our diets. And so, having that extra fat in there can definitely help. But I have to ask the question. You mentioned Lipton soup mix. Do you use Worcestershire sauce as a part of it? It's part of the meatloaf.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So there's a little bit of Worcestershire in there, and I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, but anyway. Okay. No ketchup, but some barbecue for the top and breadcrumbs and that kind of stuff. Well, that's cool. If we get together, maybe I'll have I'll have to get that.
Oh,
we'll have to see.
okay. You like biscuits and gravy?
Mm-hmm. Yes, a sausage
Okay,
gravy,
my-
like a good
my-
country sausage gravy. Okay.
Yes. Next time you make it, because it's just the basic white sauce with a little bit of pepper in it and the sausage, it's fine. It's traditional.
Right.
Add just a little bit of Worcestershire to that,
Really?
just like
okay.
a teaspoon.
Okay.
Yeah, it knocks it up, and they're not. That's fantastic.
Now, do you usually use like an A1 steak sauce or something like that on your steaks?
No,
Okay. Yeah. Good.
no,
good.
I'm more of a purist that way.
Yeah. So am I.
I just garlic butter. That's about it.
Yeah, I don't know who kind of started that whole thing, but the butter on steaks, garlic butter on steaks, was actually something that I don't know what happened, but I don't know where I got the idea. Maybe it was from like a cooking show or something like that, but I've tried that before, and that, to me, that's come out really well. Something like that. But that's another one of those little odd suggestions or odd things that you can do in terms of cooking, and try something different. If you've never tried it before, give it a shot. I know that like the keg back in the day, when we went to restaurants and stuff, but back in the day, they would have, they would have a steak come out and it had a little pat of butter, like garlic butter on the top of it, that was just finishing melting or whatever. And for whatever reason, that just like gave it a little extra something special. And so we were, you'd feel like, oh my gosh, I should be, spending a couple $100 on this steak now, just because it's got this little pat of butter on there. Anyway. So what about chicken? What do you think about chicken?
I like chicken. We don't eat it a whole lot because Ashley doesn't care for the chicken flavor. So if I do chicken, it has to be like in a heavy cream sauce, or there's a certain way I cook it. If I do it, okay. For a while we were dieting,
right?
And I'd cook up just straight boneless, skinless chicken breasts. But she wouldn't eat it unless I cooked it with seasoning salt. Seasoned salt, yeah.
Like Lowry's seasoned salt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I've never tried that on chicken.
And a little bit of butter, and no, it was really good.
Yeah.
No, it's not a witch. Sorry, Ashley's talking in my ear.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. All right. So,
but I'll do a nice chicken in a cream and wine sauce with mushrooms. Oh, it's fantastic.
Right. Okay. Have you ever done like a chicken marsala before? Where
I've done that at least once.
Okay. So with the mushrooms and I guess it's a white wine sauce in it too, and then you put that over the top.
Marsala wine,
yeah, Marsala wine, yeah.
It's good once in a while. It's been a while since I made it.
Yeah.
Not one of my more favorite dishes.
Okay. So in terms of your particular diet, are you more of a red meat person or I mean, you've already kind of mentioned that your wife doesn't really care for chicken too much. So what about, and again, you were talking about meatloaf. So I would assume that you do a lot of red meat.
Yeah. I do. I don't want to do steaks too often because I don't want it to become boring.
Right.
I want steaks on the grill to be like a special thing.
Okay.
Because I love just a nice thick New York or ribeye.
Okay.
I prefer it over charcoal, but I've done a pan fry.
Okay.
I like the woody charcoalness of it. Char, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. So if you're not doing steaks, I'm guessing then more often you're doing like ground beef. What about pork? Do you do pork? A lot of pork? We do.
We do quite a bit of pork. We do a lot of Mexican stuff.
Okay.
And I'll branch out in that too. Because I've done a Ropa Vieja. Some of that
Yeah.
it translates to old clothes, but it's
I hope it doesn't
a
taste
roast
like old
that
clothes.
you slow cook. No, it's very good.
Okay.
Cumin, tomatoes, onions,
All right.
and so that with over white rice.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been getting more into like some Cuban foods.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I like to have raisins or what is it? Green olives.
You know,
Some of those are pretty good too.
yeah. You know, one thing that I did, you know, I know I've mentioned it a couple times, I'm sure. I travel some. I won't say that I travel a lot, but I travel some. And there's times where I'll go to places and I'll try something new or different in the area. And one thing that I did have that I was pleasantly surprised about was a Caribbean jerk chicken.
Mm.
And I was actually pleasantly surprised. I think there's a lot of there's recipes out there to do it, but maybe giving that a shot too. I mean, I don't. Again, some people have an affinity for spices. Like my daughter, she can have just about anything really, really spicy hot. And in fact, she's waiting until she turns 16 so she can go do like the Buffalo Wild Wings challenge or whatever, because she thinks she can beat it. I get to a certain point where if the heat overwhelms the flavor, I tend to get turned off by it.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a real good balance between heat and flavor in my mind. But I don't think she has taste buds. I'll be honest. I really don't think she does, because she can eat stuff that is, you know, super, super hot. And I'll look at her and I'll be like, okay, yeah, you're whatever you're having, I'll give it a try. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's way too hot for me. Way too hot.
Yeah, in my younger days, I liked spicy things, and now it's a little more problematic.
Well, I mean,
It burns twice, you know.
Frank's Red Hot, that's my go-to as far as like hot sauce is concerned. But I've had some other stuff, and like she's got this ghost pepper salsa. Now granted, she mixes it, but she loves this ghost pepper salsa, and I think she got it at Costco or whatever, and she eats that, and I'm just going, oh my gosh, ghost peppers, yeah, that's way too much for me, way too much. You know,
Well,
do
you do sriracha?
I can occasionally. It's not one of my favorites, but I definitely can.
I like to put that on pizza.
Okay, I could see that. Sriracha on pizza. All right.
Yeah, not a lot. Just like one drop per bite. That's about it.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
Or I'll put green Tabasco on my eggs.
I don't think that's necessarily too far out, though. The green sauces generally are not as spicy as the red ones are.
No.
Okay.
That's why I like it.
Oh yeah. Well, say Ken popped up here and he says the best way to cook chicken is with lard in a cast iron skillet. I have to admit, Ken, I've never tried that before. I've never done that before. But as far as like cast iron skillets, that's my favorite way to cook. I love my cast iron.
Oh yeah. I just bought a 12-inch.
Oh really?
I've
okay.
had an 8-inch.
Right.
It's just too small for doing what I want to do.
Right.
Because I back when we were managing apartments, several people leave stuff behind, and I got 2 cast iron skillets out of that.
Right.
I cleaned them up and re-seasoned them, and been working like a champ ever since.
Hey, so
my 12-inch.
Just before you move on to the 12-inch, though, I want to ask, what about the re-seasoning process? What do you use?
Grapeseed oil.
Grapeseed oil. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, because I've got a couple.
There's you can use anything you want. I mean, it's just personal preference. I use that because they say it doesn't have any flavor.
Okay.
so it won't adversely affect any of your foods.
Right.
So I stuck with that, and I'm going with it.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. So, all right. So you move on to the 12-inch. So you got this 12-inch now.
Okay, when I redid, I did a lot of research on cast iron stuff before I did any of this, and the bait comes up smooth or rough.
Okay.
So with my old ones, okay, I have two 8-inches, normal 8-inch and a chicken fryer 8-inch, which is just deeper.
Okay.
That one, the chicken fryer was really corroded. I had to actually take my angle grinder to it and work that out smooth.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
So then cooking on those, which are smooth, versus my new one,
Right.
which is rough, I'm wanting to take the grinder to the rough one because I don't like the feel of it. You know, the when I'm using my spatula to stir things around, it's just for me it's too rough.
Right.
I want it to be smooth.
Yes.
But I'm gonna leave it there for a while, and maybe I can get into it.
Okay. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So let me ask you this. I mean, in terms of the cast iron, what do you use to like strip off the old patina?
I put it on my barbecue. I got a gas grill, throw it in there, put it on high, close the lid, and it burns everything right off.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cause I was looking at a website about it, and, cause I've got like I said, I've got a couple that I've been wanting to repatina, and they mentioned that what you do is you use, easy off oven cleaner, and you throw it in a bag, especially if it's like really rusted. You throw it in a paper bag for a couple of days. You spray the whole thing. You throw it in a paper bag for a couple of days, bring it out, wash it completely off, and then it'll be relatively cleared. And then at that point, you would then repatina it by putting it in the oven, you know, oiling the whole thing and then putting it in the oven at like 400 or something degrees. But I think cooking it outside. I mean, first of all, I've tried putting it in oil and putting it in the oven, and the smell from the oil just it grosses my wife out. So she has told me that if I'm going to do that, I've got to do it outside.
What oil do you use?
Well, I've tried a couple different things. I mean, we used to use Crisco for it, and I liked that a lot. But now it's like a vegetable oil, just a plain old vegetable oil or something like that. Occasionally maybe avocado oil, but that leaves a little bit of a flavor to it. Cause it does have a bit of flavor for that, but,
yeah, I don't think there's any 100% right answer for that. It's just whatever you feel comfortable using, do that.
Yep.
You know, like personally, I don't want to put the cooking spray on it or the Easy Off.
Right.
I know it's a porous metal and it doesn't soak up that much of anything, even soap. But for me personally, I don't want to do that. It's like with my grilling,
Right.
I don't put lighter fluid on the briquettes. I have a chimney.
Okay.
Because I don't want the fluid flavor coming through.
All right. Well, hold on just a second, Kirk, because I have a person on hold. His name's Jimmy. So I'm just going to since I can't communicate with him outside of talking to him, I'm going to go ahead and just tell him this. Hey, Jimmy, there was a mistake. I made a mistake on the titles. So this is actually talking about cooking successes and not phobias, even though phobias and fears shows up in the title. That was last week's show. I kind of made a mistake there. So anyway, so if you want to talk about some cooking successes, go ahead. Otherwise, I would suggest dropping off the line. Okay.
Or cooking phobias. There you go.
So cooking phobias. I mean, somebody might have a phobia of cooking. That is for sure. All right. But Jimmy, thank you very much. I appreciate the thought of calling in. I do appreciate that. I just don't want you to have the wrong topic going on there. So anyway, I do have a couple of lines open. If somebody else wants to hop in here, they certainly can. But anyway, so yeah, we were talking about the cast iron and the seasoning. I mean, one of the things that I've found help me go along with this, but one of the things that I've found is that some of the newer stuff that's out here, like the aluminum pans, the aluminum coating, they coated with like Teflon or something like that. You know, to me, those don't. I don't know what it is about them. I can't really cook very well on them. I can do it, but it's not one of my favorite. In terms of the cast iron is one that holds the heat better. And unfortunately, I still find some hot spots. Do you run across hot spots even in the cast iron?
Not that I've noticed.
Okay. I mean, it very well could be just an old range, because I do have an electric range. When I use it outside over the gas, it's a lot better. But maybe it's just an older electric range. Maybe I need to replace my elements or something. But
no,
anyway.
I was fortunate. Speaking of range, my neighbor was moving, and I helped him out with some stuff, and he gave me his new oven.
Right.
Because they had to buy something in the meantime before his real oven came. And so I got that new oven. So it's a nice glass cooktop. Fantastic.
What do you think of the glass? I've never cooked over glass.
It makes cleanup very easy. There's no burners or pans for the burners to clean out. That was always annoying.
Right.
You just got to be careful not to, drop stuff on the top, because you can break the top. But I like them a lot.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Well, I know some people have like they've been, they love the glass tops, and then there's other people are just like, no, I don't really care for it too much, or whatever it is. But anyway, have you ever taken your cast iron and like started grilling something and then like thrown it in the oven to finish it off? Have you ever done that?
No, not yet. No.
There's a couple recipes that I've had that go. One in particular is like a roasted potatoes type of setup that I did one time for Thanksgiving. And I went and I put the roasted potatoes in the pan, and I cooked them on the stovetop to get them nice and brown, and then tossed them in the oven with the skillet in the oven to be able to do. And that's what's really nice about cast iron in deference to other types. I think you can stick it in the oven, and it doesn't hurt it at all, realistically. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. So once you're done using your cast iron, how do you clean it?
Oh boy. Well, for me,
yeah.
So there's the conventional wisdom, which basically is don't touch it with any soap, and just rinse it out and leave everything in it. But, I've had some dishes, like I make this ahi steak, and realistically what it is just seared ahi. And ahi is like my favorite fish, ahi and mahi-mahi. I had when, I talked about, vacations here a couple weeks ago, and that Hawaii killed me on this stuff, because I love the tuna. I love the tuna family. But I make a mean ahi steak. Now, the problem with that, though, is that even though I just used salt and pepper on it, as very, very lightly seasoned and seared, it still leaves a little bit of flavor in there. So I will go and, hit it with some soap real quick, and just kind of, take care of that, and then dry it off as well as I can, stick it on a burner, let it dry. put it on like a low burner, let it dry that out with the heat, and then put a little bit of oil in there, rub it all around, and that repatinas everything.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I still keep looking at things online, and the two most popular methods I've seen is salt and a little bit of cold water, just to give it some grittiness in a wooden spatula, or put the skillet back on the stove, let it heat up, and then get some hot water and do the same thing with the spatula.
Okay.
Just rub the hot water around, and that'll help clean it off also.
Yeah.
I've made the mistake of using steel wool once.
Oh.
I had some stainless steel wool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took a little bit too much off.
Well, I bought this this cleaner for the more sticky stuff when you have maybe you do something in it and it's really it bonds to the metal or whatever. But it kind of looks like chainmail, and it's like
yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, so it's like a little curtain of chainmail. It's only about this big, realistically, something like that. For those that are on the video side, but what's cool about it is you can go and you rub off the burnt on food, and it takes it right off. The thing about it is, though, with that is I've only used it a couple times, but I've never used steel wool. I have used like scrubber pads, but they're not the same. Like the green backs of a sponge or whatever. I've used that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you mentioned the salt, and the salt, I actually have to tell you, I had one pan that got a little bit of rust on it. And what had happened was it was actually stacked with another pan, and I hadn't used it in a while. And so it had gotten some rust in it. And when I broke it apart and I looked inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, rust. How am I going to get this rust off of here? A little bit of water, just a tiny, tiny bit, with the salt. And the salt has to be, you can use iodized salt, but I ended up using sea salt that was, from the grinder that you would grind out the sea salt.
Yeah.
But that took the rust completely off like that. It was amazing. I was just shocked at how easy it was to go ahead and do that. So, salt, I know, is a really big thing in the cast iron, because I looked that up and I was just amazed at it. One thing that I've been wanting to try, but I haven't really delved into it, has to deal with the the Camp Made, because you know how Camp Made makes all this wonderful camping gear. Well, they also have, some of the cast iron stuff, and Camp Made makes a seasoning agent. I guess it's like an oil that they recommend that you use on their stuff. And I don't know if I've never really tried it yet, but I've thought about it, and I've been like, it's just something. But to me, the best out of all of the stuff that I've ever done, the best one that I've used to repatina the cast iron has always been Crisco, like the lard, the Crisco lard that you get in the can.
Yeah,
that just seems to work the best. But obviously, yeah, you can do anything. You can do pretty much anything, like you said. As long as it doesn't leave a flavor, because that's really the challenge, obviously, is leaving a flavor in cast iron when you're cooking from one to the other. And unfortunately, I found that out the hard way about the ahi steaks, the fish. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to cook German pancakes in my 8-inch.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Come out really nice. They don't stick at all, ever.
Yeah.
My son, he loves to have a German pancake almost every weekend.
So the German pancakes, remind me, that's the potato type, right?
No.
Okay.
You're thinking of latkes, I think.
Okay.
No, this is just half cup flour, half cup milk, 3 eggs, quarter cup sugar, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. One recipe I found uses an entire stick of butter, which is insane. You melt that in the pan and then pour the batter on top of that, and it gets all incorporated. It's tasty. Then you serve it with powdered sugar and lemon juice.
Okay.
Really good. You got to try it sometime.
All right. I mean, you may have to send that to me. You may have to email that to me. Let me know on that one.
Okay.
So one other thing that I've done in the past, and this is something my family, this has kind of been handed down a little bit, but one of the things that I've done in the past when it comes to food and pork that I didn't mention is German schnitzel. And basically, for those that don't know what schnitzel is it's essentially thinly pounded pork. It's kind of like pork chops, but it's thinly pounded out. If you're really doing it proper, you pound it out with, like a meat tenderizer, and you get it really thin, and then you bread it and you fry it. You pan fry it.
Yeah, I don't believe I've ever had schnitzel. I've heard about it, and I've wanted to try it.
Well,
I never have.
One of the things that I do, I mean, you can buy like the Italian breadcrumbs that already has the seasoning in it, which is good. I mean, don't get me wrong, but for me, having that much breading is just, without it being like an actual batter, is really tough for me. So what I do is I'll cut it half and half with panko, and it gives it a little bit crispier crunch without it turning completely brown as the oil gets older and older. But back in I did work fast food back in the Dairy Queen days. I did work they would tell us you never swap the oils. You never put the chicken in with the fries. You always had to make sure that your oils were separate and so on and so forth. And I understand now why. I mean, back then I was in high school. I didn't care, but I understand why now, because after a while, the oil starts to absorb the flavor of whatever it is that you're cooking in it. And, but for me, the panko, half like Italian seasoning breadcrumbs, seems to work quite well when it comes to that. So do you do a lot of fried stuff?
No, we have an air fryer. We did for a while, but it basically coats the entire house in the thin oil. And I don't care for that.
Right.
All over the house.
So air frying, that's that, what are they? It's kind of like a convection oven, I guess, in a way.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Those really hot air all over your food.
Wow. I could go places with that, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we were on the rails, but I just jumped us off and took us down a rabbit hole, and that happens. It's like I said. Hey, I mean, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but my glass is starting to get a little empty. So, yeah.
Okay.
So I want to toss out Tracy. Let me get this back on track. Tracy pointed out on the chat on YouTube, she was saying that water only for the cast iron. I've heard that, and I've heard it's the recommended way of doing it. In fact, a lot of people have been telling me that that's not, you never ever touch it with soap. I don't know. I'm a little squeamish about that. I think that there has to be at least a little bit of something. I don't know. Water only.
I don't think just a couple of drops of soap isn't going to hurt anything. It's not, the cast iron isn't as porous as people believe it is.
Well, and you've got the patina on there too. I mean, not that I'm arguing, because I'm definitely not an expert on this, but from that perspective, I would imagine that just a little bit of, like Dawn, just to take the grease out of the way or whatever. Yeah, whatever they're.
Yeah, as long as you're not, putting half a bottle in there, I think you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have a problem trying to convince my wife that, yeah, I'm just going to use water. Yeah, that isn't going to work. That isn't going to work. Okay, so yeah, so you should try schnitzel. Schnitzel actually, and so when you fry stuff, when you bread stuff, do you do a lot of breading?
No, not in a while.
Okay, so it
It
doesn't
just
sound like.
becomes
Go ahead.
it becomes too thick,
Right.
and then you get the lobster claw hand when you're doing that breading. if you're doing the deep frying,
Yeah,
it's not my favorite thing to do.
yeah. One thing that my family loves is they love homemade chicken strips, and they love the schnitzel, homemade chicken strips and schnitzel. Those are like, as much as I love them, they're
I've done
kind
the
of
chicken strips.
they're kind of the bane to my existence because we usually get the large packs of chicken and we try and cut them up and everything, and pretty much you end up with like these large packs, and I end up cooking for like an hour because obviously I don't own a deep fryer. I pan fry the stuff that I have.
Right.
So
Takes forever.
oh yeah, I mean you can only throw like 3 or 4 in the pan and that kind of stuff, and so yeah, it's a little bit difficult sometimes, and it takes forever to do. So we try not to do it very often. Of course, it's not good for you anyway, just to have all that fried food, but still, it's just one of those things that it just takes forever. But
Yeah, if I want chicken strips, I'll go pay someone to make me chicken strips.
yeah, and they usually have like the basket fryer and everything else. One thing that I will have to say, growing up, my family did have this thing called the Fry Daddy, which was like this little small,
Oh, yeah.
it's I don't know, maybe 8 inches around or whatever, and it had you'd put oil in it, and it was like an electric fryer, and that I think would make things a lot easier, rather than pan frying everything. But at the same time, though, you're still dealing with having to deal with the batter and putting the egg and milk wash in and that kind of stuff. And the way that I do it is I take the meat and I put it in flour first to help the egg and the milk egg wash. They call it the egg wash. At least that's what all of the cooking shows tell me to call it. But anyway, so that, to help the egg wash adhere to the meat, and then you put it in the breading afterward. I've never tried batter. I've got to try that. I keep thinking about that every time and I'm like, I've never tried to do an actual batter. Batter might be cool.
Homemade corn dogs.
Oh, really? Okay. Tell me about it.
Never done it, but you could do it. No, I've never done it. I don't want to do it.
You've never done it? You just want me to do
way
it?
too messy.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, you try. You do it. You tell me how it goes.
Yeah, we don't eat a lot of hot dogs
you
here.
use
We don't eat a lot of hot dogs here. The dog eats
brats.
more hot
Do it with
dogs than we
brats.
do.
That'd be amazing.
Brats. Oh my gosh. Brats with a little bit of mustard. Oh, I'm getting hungry. I'm getting hungry.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, that's
you gotta
awesome.
have brats with sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut. Oh, come on. Boiled cabbage. Give me a break.
No, not boiled.
Fermented
Where
cabbage.
are you getting your sauerkraut from?
Dude. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Fermented cabbage. Okay. I'm sorry. That's like a Reuben with that on there. I just can't do that. No. Sauerkraut.
Sorry, okay. I was brought up eating a lot of vinegar. Okay, my mother put vinegar on green beans. She has vinegar in her potato salad. I like vinegar, and sauerkraut is in that same vein. It's kind of a spicy kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, okay.
And
So I have to admit, I've changed.
when I cook pork chops, I have to have do my seasoned salt with my pork chops,
Right.
and I have to put the sauerkraut in the same pan to get all the good bits from the pork, and I love that.
Okay, I was
So
good
the
up until
Sunday.
the point. I was good up until the point that you said sauerkraut. I'm just not much of a sauerkraut fan. I'm sorry, but Reuben's.
That's fine. More for me.
Hey, Reuben's. I can eat the sauerkraut kind of thing on a Reuben sandwich. I can do that. That's fine. But I can't just have like sauerkraut on a hot dog or whatever. Or a brat. I just can't do it. Plain brat, mustard, and that's it. There you go. Bun, maybe.
Okay. How often do you go back to Portland?
Oh God. Nowadays, nothing. I don't ever go.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you ever happen to meander that way again, there's a restaurant in Portland called Byways Cafe.
Byways Cafe. Okay.
Saw them on Triple D.
Oh, really?
Diners, drives, and yeah.
Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives with Guy Fieri. There's a plug for an old show that I don't think is still on, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. All right.
No, but they make a Reuben that is fantastic. That instead of Thousand Island, they use French. It was really good.
French dressing?
So if you're ever down there, do that.
I have to admit the absolute best Reuben that I have ever tasted in my life, I actually got in New York. And it was at, scary thought, I was actually at this Irish pub, this little hole-in-the-wall Irish pub that happened to be just down the block from my hotel. And I happened to walk in, and I swear it was like, have you ever had one of those moments where you walk into a place and you just feel like you've been transported in time somewhere else? That's what this felt like. And I walked in and I swear, everybody that was in there had an Irish accent. I'd have been like, dude, I stepped into Ireland. I was like, oh my gosh. And as you know, from my vacation episode, I want to go to Ireland. That is just awesome. But I stepped in and I couldn't believe it. It was just like, holy crap. Well, the only thing that was on the menu that looked appetizing that day, believe it or not, was a Reuben sandwich. And I've never had one. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not a really big fan of sauerkraut. I'm not really a big fan of Reubens, but I've actually changed my tastes as I've gotten older. But in that particular case, I walked in and it was a fantastic sandwich. Oh my gosh, mouth-watering. It was awesome. And I mean, you can even ask my wife, because I've walked around, I walked around for days talking about this sandwich. I was like, oh my gosh, can they send it to me? I mean, I even asked them if they could send it. It's like, oh my Lord. But anyway, so.
Yeah, if there's a Reuben on the menu, I have to have it.
My wife's the same way.
I will judge a place on its Reuben.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. She will do it. She will have the Reuben most of the time. I won't say all the time, but most of the time she'll like lean toward the Reuben. And what's really weird is since I've had that Reuben, I've actually been trying to find a Reuben that is that good. So I'll even do the exact same thing. I'll go and I'll like get the Reuben just because of that. But it was just, oh my gosh.
That has backfired on me. I once ordered a Reuben from Denny's. Oh my God, that was horrible.
Dude.
That was the worst thing I had ever eaten in my life.
All right. I'm going to just point this out to you. Buying something from a chain usually is not great. The one exception I will have to say, if you ever get a chance to go into the South, okay, this is serious. If you ever get a chance to go to the Southeast and you run across like Houston has one, Phoenix, Arizona has one. I'm trying to think, there's a couple other places, but they're like really popular. It is a chain restaurant and it is expensive. I'm not going to deny this, but it's called Papa Do's. Papa, Deux. It is a Cajun themed restaurant that is a restaurant chain. They do all Cajun food. Most of it is like fish related stuff. Oh my gosh. I have been to 2 different places in Houston, one in Phoenix, Arizona. It is probably my go-to. If I see that there is a Papa Do's in that town, I will actually drive an hour to go to this place. I have not had a bad meal at this place. This is probably the only chain restaurant that I have to admit I have never had a bad meal at. So Pappadeaux's, if anybody knows about Pappadeaux's or whatever, and you are listening to this broadcast, make sure you send them, tell them they got to send me something. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I've had like their alligator appetizers are just to die for. I've had their salmon. I've had oh God, I can't even think. I mean, it's just like I go there and oh my Lord, that it is mouthwatering. So I have this guy that I work with, okay? And I'm not going to say his name, but anybody that watches this broadcast that works with me, they will know immediately as soon as I say this. I have this guy at work that he literally has to eat at a 4-star restaurant. Okay. It has to be 4 stars or above on any kind of a rating in order for him to eat there. He is a food connoisseur. This guy he is in search of the best steak. I send him to the Ringside down in Portland. You mentioned Portland, Oregon. I sent him to the Ringside down there. He called me up. He texted me with a picture of the
Hmm.
steak. He was like, "Oh my Lord, this is awesome." This guy, if it is anything, if it's even average, he will complain about it. It has to be above average. Okay. And I have to admit, we walked into Pappadeaux's. This was our first trip. We walked into Pappadeaux's. I just picked it because it was 4 stars and above. I was like, okay, I'm just going to try and, he does this thing where he tries to make you pick the restaurant. So anyway, he was like, hey, you pick it. So I was like, okay, fine. So let's go seafood. Let's do 4 stars and above. So we'll go here. So we went there. That is the first and the only meal I have ever had with the man where he literally said nothing through the entire meal. He ate his salmon dish. He was so inspired. He actually hates chain restaurants. He hates them, but that is the one chain restaurant that he will go to without a doubt. So I'm telling you, if anybody knows Pappadeaux's, or even do me a favor, drop them a line. Tell them, hey, this guy is pushing your restaurant. If they were to call me and say, hey, we want to sponsor your program, I would love it. I would love it. That place is awesome. I go and visit my parents. I've told my parents in multiple times because they live in Phoenix. I'm like, you have got to go to Pappadeaux's. I'm like, you've got to go. I know it's expensive, but you've got to go. There's just, I have not had a bad meal. I've been there like 3 or 4 times. I have not had a bad meal. It is amazing. You have got to go. Oh, Tracy is saying Pappadeaux's is okay. So Tracy, what is wrong with Pappadeaux's? Oh, she says it's way overpriced. Well, no kidding. I just told you it was expensive. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have an argument with somebody on chat. Wow. I understand it's overpriced. I know it's overpriced. It does make sense. I get it. It's overpriced. But you know what? For somebody who ends up going on the road and has to eat out, it's like one of those things that you got to find your nirvana somewhere, because heck, you're sitting in a oh, you're married to a Cajun from Louisiana. Okay, I get it. I got it. I get it. Tracy, props to you. Oh my gosh. Well, hey, Tracy, if you feel like you want to get rid of some of that Cajun food, I'm more than willing to give you my address. Okay? Just saying. But anyway, so yeah, Pappadeaux's, to me, you got to find your little niches. You got to find your niches. You really do. Especially when you're traveling. Because you're sitting in a hotel, you're away from your family. I mean, I don't want to be a downer on this job or on this show, but seriously, I mean, when you travel, you got to find your little pleasures. Like for an example, I will always, at the end of a job, when I've done a successful time, I will always order some kind of dessert. Oh, wait, honey, you didn't hear that. Okay, so anyway,
I ordered a salad. I just ordered a salad.
yes,
for
I
dinner,
ordered
yeah.
a salad, sweetheart. Promise, I swear. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, my thing is always, I always try to treat myself at the end of a job, but definitely if I happen to go to Papa Do's and you know, keep in mind, I mean, I live in the Seattle area. I've come from Portland. I mean, granted, you cannot get better salmon than what's up here. I'm sorry. I don't care.
Oh yeah.
There is just no way. People talk about Atlantic salmon. I've had Atlantic salmon. It's not the same. It's not the same as a Pacific salmon. I'm sorry. We just have the best salmon in the world here. That's just it. But other stuff, yeah, I'm good.
Oh yeah. Everybody has their own regions where it's there are things like, you know, New England lobster and Northwest salmon, Texas brisket, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah, the salmon up here is phenomenal. I mean, it is really phenomenal. I don't think I've ever had really a bad salmon here in the Pacific Northwest. You know, and we get stuff like coming down from Alaska. That's another thing that we get. We get like the coho and the Copper River salmon. I mean, oh my gosh, it's what is it? I think it's either Fred Meyer or Albertsons, I think. I'm trying to think. I think it's Fred Meyer. They advertise every time the Copper River salmon comes in. I mean, I'm afraid to cook a Copper River salmon because if I screw it up, I will never hear the end of it. I'm sorry. Just not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
But you have to try it. I mean, I felt the same way about cooking a brisket because it's a huge piece of meat. It's kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I screwed up my very first one. But you got to do it in order to do it. So,
have you ever grilled a salmon?
And do it.
Have you ever grilled a salmon?
Grilled? No, I tried. Well, okay, I've done it twice. One, I tried to smoke one. That did not turn out too bad.
Okay.
And the next one, I tried cooking on a cedar plank.
How did you like the cedar plank?
I didn't notice any thing. I don't see what the deal is. It's supposed to add some kind of flavor, but I didn't notice it.
You know, I actually, I usually do. Oops, excuse me. I usually do cedar plank, and cedar plank actually, to me, it doesn't necessarily add any flavor to it. But what I like about it is the fact that it protects the salmon. It turns it into more of a smoky kind of a thing, rather than like grilling it directly on the flame and having a chance of burning it. It usually, like, I don't know, it does smoke it a little bit, and it protects the salmon because usually the wood plank, at least the way I did it, the wood plank is underneath the salmon itself. And so it protects it from the flame. So it gets the heat, but not the flame, which is actually pretty cool. Now, when I do salmon, if I get the opportunity, regardless of whether I stick it in the oven or put it on the grill, I usually wrap it in a tinfoil. If I'm not doing the cedar plank stuff, I'll wrap it in tinfoil with very thin slices of lemon. And the lemon has to be like complete. I mean, even the skin on the lemon. And I'll do thin slices of lemon and thin slices of onion with a little salt, little pepper wrapped in the foil. And you just let it cook in there until the fish is opaque. And that, to me, that just comes out phenomenal. I mean, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like very little seasoning on my salmon. Like some people saying, teriyaki salmon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Teriyaki.
I'm sure it's delicious, but I think the teriyaki overpowers the flavor of the salmon, which is why I order salmon. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
salmon has a very, very distinct flavor.
I think you and I kind of
tuna.
fall into the same camp. We basically fall into the same camp where we like the more natural kind of flavors of food rather than some kind of sauce overpowering that flavor.
Well,
Because
it depends on the meat. But yeah, like chicken is very bland. It screams for a sauce.
okay, that just put a weird thing in my head of a chicken screaming for a sauce. It's just sitting there, you know. Anyway,
Okay.
sorry. It's just, I mean, okay. My
That
neighbors.
was a great face. Oh my god.
Here, do you want me to do that again just to
There's
keep the
your
laughter
thumbnail.
going?
Oh my god.
Anyway. Wow. Okay. So yeah, it's chicken
I
just
think
screaming.
we lost the rail altogether. Oh my god.
You know what? Some of the best shows I think I found have been where we've gone off the rails. I mean, seriously.
Oh.
The
Yeah,
last
we're an hour and a half into this thing, man.
I need to, you know what I need to do? I need to have you on more. I need to bring you on more. I really do. Just because of the conversations that we have. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe I need to give
only
you
on certain subjects. I mean,
well,
I can talk about food.
oh, well, okay. I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm okay with that. I've done like 3 or 4 different episodes on food. It's fine. It's fine. I'm good with that.
Oh no. Oh please.
Yeah. I have different
Okay.
ways. I do have different ways. We don't necessarily have to use you as a call-in person either. I mean, there are different ways of doing this. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I have a camera. I mean.
Well, this is true.
Oh,
This is true. Anyway.
Hey, well, if you want to try it out, I will give it a shot, but I'm not giving any promises.
Well, I'll just have to figure something out. But anyway.
Okay.
All right, cool. So chicken, screaming chicken. Oh boy. And you remember the chicken on the Muppets? I mean the stupid ass chickens from the Muppets. They had the chef and the 2 chickens.
Jeez. You know. Oh my God.
Hey, I actually heard that. I like that. 2 guys and whiskey. Maybe that will be. Oh wow, that could be an episode title for sure.
An occasional thing. Fine.
You know, it's occasional.
A
Anyway.
sub-segment.
Grilled teriyaki salmon. You know, I'm kind of in the same boat as
Holy
you.
crap.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I mean, Tracy, I get it. Teriyaki. I mean, a lot of people like sauces with their stuff, but you're right. I sort of think that the flavor of the fish should come out on its own. But that being said, I mean, you know, Addie also mentions how she likes sashimi. I'm actually a big fan of like sushi and sashimi. I love that. Like I said, I love tuna. I mean, tuna.
No, it's a texture thing for me. I just can't stand that.
Oh, come on. Seriously, once you get past the texture, you're fine. Throw it with rice, you're
Put a
good,
little soy
man.
sauce on it, sure.
No. You know what you should try? You should actually try some rolls. So you know, some people actually, when it comes to sushi and that, some people don't like the standard sushi or the sashimi, which is, I think, if I remember correctly, is without rice. We did a show, the show about bad eats. We had that clarified. I think it was sashimi is without rice, but and sushi is with.
Okay.
But the rolls, like a California roll and stuff like that, I think you might like those. Those have different flavors. They got different stuff with them. You know, they got
those I'll do.
Oh, you will do those. Okay.
I've made those. I mean, because it's you know, cooked crab,
Right.
avocado. Oh, what else is in there?
Cucumber.
There's something else in there.
Typically cucumber.
Cucumber. That's what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Because a long time ago, I worked for a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I was before I became an electrician,
Right.
and I was trying to find anything. And he had worked at Benihana, and he didn't like the way how Benihana was dark, and they kind of forced you to watch the show.
Right.
Because that's why you went there, really. So his place was light, and if you weren't really into the show, you were more into the food, then that's what he did. But anyway, for him, I was making California rolls,
Right.
which was kind of cool. Day old rice, seaweed wrap, that kind of thing.
Is that how they make it so
So
sticky?
those I like because there's no raw seafood in that. It's cooked crab with vegetables and rice.
So wait a minute. You mean to tell me that they're using day-old rice? That's how they make it sticky?
Yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't get used the night before. It goes into the sushi or California rolls or whatever.
Well, I did not know that. I did not know that.
Because we have Sushi Maru here, which is a conveyor belt place.
Oh,
You've been
God,
to
I
one of
hate
those?
those. I hate those. I'm sorry. I hate the conveyor
Really?
belt stuff.
How do you feel about it?
I could get a
Well,
little
everything-
more.
well,
I could
not
get a
everything.
little
Most
more
things are covered.
emphatic about it, but really.
Yeah, especially when they have the hot food out, and by the time you get to it, it's cold food. So you have to ask for that specifically from the kitchen.
Oh. We actually got a really good sushi place that popped in as a Japanese sushi place in town that I've been to, and it's pretty good. But considering the fact that where I live, it's very sparsely populated. We don't have a lot of, we have a crap ton of restaurants considering the population. But that being said, I mean, this is like the one and only kind, and it's pretty decent. The best sushi, though, honestly, this is going to sound really bad, it was in Longview, Washington. And for those of you that don't know where Longview, Washington is, it's on the Columbia River, and it's like this little, if it weren't for the timber industry being there, I don't think Longview would exist. But
No.
it was just this little hole in the wall sushi place, and we went to it one night. Me and some guys, we were doing some work down there, and it was really, really good. I was actually kind of surprised walking in. It looked a little sketchy, I will admit, but the sushi was really good, and it's one of the better ones that I've been to. At the same time, though, the one and only place that I've been with the conveyor belt style of sushi that you keep talking about was in Houston, and that place was not the best to me. So that kind of soured me on that whole idea of sushi places. But anyway. Oh, goodness. So how long have we been at this? Holy crap. Okay, it's 9:30. Wow.
It's a record. Yeah.
It's an hour and a half. Absolutely, it's a record. And you know what? People are still here. I still see people watching this on YouTube. Granted, my one listener on Facebook took off, and of course I don't have the Periscope TV is not working right now because I didn't re-sign in. I don't know what's going on with that. I'd love to stream on Twitter, but you know what? I've actually been thinking about cutting things back and trying to bring it back to just a single stream or two. But anyway, I digress. So anyway, well, I think as much fun as this has been, sir, thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Like you said, food you can always talk about. So I'm going to have to remember that. So we're going to I'll come back around to food sooner or later. Hey, you know what? We've got Thanksgiving. We've got Thanksgiving coming up. And
I got things.
This is perfect because I've actually been thinking of doing a Thanksgiving special. The Saturday after Thanksgiving.
That one I need to be on camera for.
Okay. We will set that up. We will set that up
for a split screen. Okay.
You got it. We will set that up. I've actually got, I've already got the background and everything all set up. It's just a matter of getting somebody in to be able to do it. For those of you that are hanging out and watching and everything, I am cooking up a Halloween special. And to be honest with you, I am tempted to take that one for as long as I can. I won't give away too much of it, but I'm thinking of doing some things, and maybe you guys can help me out. Definitely drop me a line. Either send it to me on the Facebook page, on the Whiskey Musings Facebook page, or, think about maybe what we might want to do. But I was actually thinking of doing some things like possibly doing some readings from such authors as Edgar Allan Poe, as an example. And I'm thinking of doing that, but that's for the Halloween special, because Halloween falls on a Saturday this year. So this is going to be awesome. And I've got that coming. Anyway, so Kirk, I'm not going to bore you anymore. Go ahead.
Quarantine going on. No one's going to be out partying. So.
Well, actually, I was thinking about that too, because Christmas falls on the 25th, which is a Friday. And, of course, it falls on the 25th. See, I've had way too much to drink. Hello. Okay, so
Okay.
So it falls on a Friday, and so ironically does New Year's. So I may actually have considered about maybe doing like a New Year's special too, since most people we may not be able to go out and celebrate. I don't know for sure. But anyway, I did want to let everybody know about the October special. So Kirk, I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and then I'm going to close this out. I appreciate the phone call. That is just absolutely wonderful. You are, as always, a fabulous guest. Thank you very much for calling in. And we will
do what I can.
Yeah, well, you do it well, sir. You do it well. You have a wonderful night, so I'm going to let you go.
You do.
And
Bye.
for everybody else that's on the stream, so let me just kind of pop this out here. We have Halloween coming up. Like I said, I'm planning on doing a Halloween special. I was thinking about maybe doing some scary stories, scary poems, throwing in maybe some Edgar Allan Poe. But I'll tell you what. I want you to tell me what you think that should be kind of looking like, whether or not you're feeling that or not. Write me. I am at Rick at Whiskey Musings, all one word, .online or .net, either one. And that's Rick, R-I-C-K, at Whiskey Musings, all one word, .online or .net. If you have any suggestions as to what we might want to do for that Halloween special, that would be great. Candy may be involved. I don't know. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I do have the Whiskey Musings store. Now, I've went ahead and ordered some stuff. It's going to take a little bit of time if you order things. The reason being is because this is a made to order product. So that means that when you order it, I don't have like a big warehouse full of this stuff. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but trust me, if you're patient, you will get the product. I've got some examples coming. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to see me wearing some of my own logoed stuff, which would be really, really cool. I would appreciate any support that you have for there. As always, make certain that you go to YouTube for sure and subscribe there. Like I've kind of alluded to, I'm thinking about maybe shutting down like the Facebook side and the Twitter side, those kinds of things. But take a look. I will have the link. It's not in this. Sorry, I'm jumping back. Alcohol related. I'm jumping back to the Whiskey Musings stuff real quick. I do not have the link currently in the video right now, but it is in last week's video, and I will update it. I'll update this one as soon as it becomes available, so you'll have the link there. But you have fan gear available. There's mostly sweatshirts, and I think there's some t-shirts and mugs and stickers. So, support the show. Go there, get on that. I would really appreciate it. All of the proceeds and everything go to support the show, to support things like the call-in option and that kind of stuff. So please go ahead and do that. If you have not let anybody else know about the show, please go ahead and do that. Please go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate my additional subscribers this week. It was really, really exciting to see a few extra people pop in. Jimmy was great, even though he popped in a little late. Actually, I've got somebody calling in now, so maybe I'm going to give the auto screener a time to take care of this. But let me just see what this is. Auto screen failed. Well, let me just see what this is. Maybe we'll carry this on just a little bit longer. Hold on just a second. Hello, caller.
Hey.
Fuck you, you bitch. Fuck yourself, you stupid
Oh,
asshole.
no,
cunt.
no, no,
Kill
no.
yourself.
We
You're
don't
so
do
fucking
that
nasty,
stuff.
You stupid fucking bastard.
That's bad. Oh, I'm sorry, folks. Sorry about that. Wow. Some people just can't stop messing with others. I'm going to ban that caller. That person can't come back. There we go. All right. So anyway, let me see the last thing. Yes, definitely subscribe, please. Let everybody else know about the show, and please pass it on. Let's try and get some more subscribers and stuff going. Like I said, the Halloween special I've got coming up next week. I'm not quite sure what the topic's going to be, but definitely join back in when you get the opportunity. Yeah, I know, Tracy. Wow, that's right. Woo. I cannot believe that. That was just bad. That was just really bad. Wow. I don't know what to say. I can't imagine why people would do that. But anyway, thank you very much for joining. I apologize for that caller. That caller is no longer you're going away. Bye-bye. Anyway, thank you very much. I will talk to you later. Have a great weekend, and as always, keep everything pretty clean. Drink the whiskey when you need to, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.